Hi, it's Matt. Something arrived today that I'm kind of excited about. It's my first 3D printer. Let's open it up. I've wanted one of these for a while, but I haven't had the excuse. But seeing as I'm spending so much time at home, I thought, why not give myself something to play with? And the one I've ordered is a Prusa Mini. And the reason I've gone for this is because apparently it's meant to be really good and it's not too expensive. Let's start by saying I've wanted a 3D printer for a while, but I decided that I won't get one until I have something that I want to make. I've had a go at using some 3D design software, and 3D printers get to the stage where they're at least as reliable as a cheap 1990s inkjet printer. So I'm not expecting it to be fully reliable, but I'm expecting to do it something most of the time. And the reason I say that is I've got several friends who've got 3D printers and have had them for years, and they seem to spend more time calibrating, fixing them than they do using them to actually print stuff. From what I've heard and what I've read, the research I've done, it seems that the Prusa printers are kind of at that stage where they mostly work without you having to fiddle with them. And they've recently released the Prusa Mini, which is what I've got here. So I've got one to give it a go, because I've got a few things I want to print. Hopefully I'll be able to show you though in some future videos. I've had a go with Fusion 360, and it seems reasonably easy to use. I've designed a couple of things in it. So I ordered this. Let's have a look inside. This actually wasn't meant to arrive for a few weeks. Prusa have been really good. It wasn't due until the third week in January. But as you may have heard, Britain's doing a little Brexit. As I speak now on the last day of 2020, they haven't finalised the entire trade deal yet. And I was looking a few weeks ago to see if I'd have to pay any extra import duty or anything like that. And the page on the UK government website said, we don't know, it hasn't been decided yet. And I got an email from Prusa the other day saying they've stopped taking any new orders from anyone in the UK, but every existing order has been upgraded to air freight rather than ground freight. And they were trying to get them all to the UK before the 1st of January when all the rules change, just so that it gets through and it doesn't cause any extra hassle to us or them. So thank you very much to them for doing this. I've paid for this with my own money. It's not sponsorship or anything like that. Too much waffle. Let's open it up. I've never done an unboxing video before. Right, we've got assembly manuals. We've got, bits of filaments. Some gummy bears. Okay, there's loads of stuff here. I'm going to get it out on the table and start to assemble it. This isn't where I'm going to be using it because, as you may have seen in my videos, this is a rather wobbly table, so I'm going to stick it in a small corner of another room, which should be a bit sturdier and out of the way. I haven't considered how I'm going to film in there, but that's a hurdle I can cross when I come to it. Right, I've got everything out that I think I could need. We've sent you an updated version of the Prusa Mini 3D printer recording at the Mini Plus. Okay. I have the instruction manual I need. For this manual, please prepare a 2.5mm Allen key and a mini bag of Haribo bears. Okay. Let's put this down. I'm sure it came with its own Allen key, but I'm going to use mine because they're nicer. I've got that ready. Haribo bears. Keep the bag with the Haribo bears closed for now and hide it. Unattended bags tend to mysteriously disappear. When I first found out about and saw 3D printers, it was about maybe nearly 10 years ago now, when I was a member of the Manchester Hackspace, Hack Manchester. I'd never used one, but they seemed like a cool thing, but you had to build it yourself from 3D printed parts. It was a rep wrap. That was the name of the style of 3D printer. I'm doing the research on this. It's based on the rep wrap style printers that I saw maybe a decade ago now. And the whole point of the rep wrap printer, as I remember, was that it was meant to be built out of as many 3D printable parts as possible. meaning that if anything broke, you could replace it with your 3D printer or another one. And this too has got loads of different 3D printed bits on it. For those of you who aren't familiar with 3D printing, this printer and others like it work by heating up and melting some plastic and then squirting it through an extruder and basically laying a line of molten plastic on a surface. Once that's dried, it goes up and lays another line on top of that. So you end up with lots of different layers of plastic, which all then kind of form together and stick together to make one piece. It kind of works like a glue gun, really, because that basically gets something plasticky and melts it, but with much smaller globs, and it's a bit harder. Tell you what, you're getting a good look at my concentration face. It's not complicated. These steps so far aren't hard. I'm just reading them a few times just to make sure I'm doing it right. Just like doing a piece of IKEA furniture. You don't want to miss a step, so then you have to do it again. 3 screws in. Okay, so that's the 2 main bits attached together. The next part is to screw the screen in. So I've got most of the bits plugged in now. Didn't take very long. I've got a filament sensor here. Filament is the plastic that goes through and then gets melted to make the 3D object. That was quite hard to push in. I ended up needing to use some pliers, but once I'd got that on and figured out all these cables, make sure they go in the right place, that was all mostly okay. I now need to make a spool holder. All the plastic that you use comes in rolls or spools. So this will be so then it can roll and unravel while it's drawing it in. Amazingly, out of all of this process, the hardest thing I've had so far is just trying to get this nut in the hole. Which is kind of good. The only difficult thing I've had is really minor. I think that's it then for the build. I've got what looks very much like a 3D printer here, all assembled. I've got my spool holder. All I need to do now is put it in its final resting place, plug the power in, and then have a go, really. Yeah, I'm going to go move this into the other room and see if I can find a camera angle where you can see too. Turn it on. Ooh. Ooh. Say hello to YouTube.
Hello, YouTube.
It's done its self-test and it's happy. Now I need to load in the filament. Yes, I do need a taller tripod. Ooh. Wow, look at the colour of that. Tiny dribble of plastic there. It's day 2. Last night I managed to set up and calibrate the printer. It took me quite a while longer than the manual suggested, which was about 30 or 40 minutes. It took me several hours because it was New Year's Eve and I was doing it in between video calls with friends and playing games. So I didn't have my full attention on it, so it did take a few hours, but the 30 to 4 minutes with your full attention does seem reasonably achievable. The calibration was more fiddly than I expected. I'll show you what it does. It prints this zigzag line on the printer bed and then a filled in rectangle. There are diagrams in the manual which show you how flattened the bead of filament should be, but in real life it's so small it's actually really hard to see. So I kept turning down the nozzle height until the filled in rectangle at the end stayed together as a rectangle rather than a lot of zigzag lines that weren't stuck together. And that seems to have done the trick. And then next I printed the Prusa logo as suggested by the manual, and that seemed to come out okay. So I moved on to the 3D Benchy, which is the name of a test piece which looks like a little boat. And it's basically a standard that people seem to use to test how well their printer is working. And in all of the review videos I've seen for cheap 3D printers, the way they test it is by printing out one of these. So I did one too. My thinking being, if mine looks weird, then other 3D printing pros will be able to have a look at it and see what's wrong with it. But compared to loads of the review videos I've seen for cheap 3D printers, mine looks excellent. Theirs have lots of, I don't know, squiggly bits and melty bits, whereas mine just looks like a boat. All of this means I've got a working 3D printer, so I can print whatever I can think of. I've got a couple of ideas coming up, so keep an eye out for those. Thanks for watching. I'm at Matt Gray S on all the socials. If you want, you can buy my merch at shop.mattg.co.uk and hit subscribe so you don't miss my next video.